Story and writing. Recently laid off dad trying to redefine his purpose as a stay at home parent is genuinely a compelling setup, one that feels accessible and surprisingly mainstream. The early focus on insecurity, masculinity, and family dynamics is grounded and relatable, setting the film up for something character driven and emotionally resonant. Fortunately, once the movie pivots into something adjacent to that premise, writing begins to lose focus. The plot becomes cluttered and overloaded with ideas, prioritizing escalation over coherence. Instead of building naturally, the story rushes from beat to beat, often skipping emotional groundwork or relying on half-baked reasoning and abrupt transitions to move things along. Tone is another major issue. The film can't decide whether it wants to be heartfelt, absurd, intense, or satirical. Rather than blending those tones, they end up clashing. By the time the story reaches its later acts, it feels like several different movies stitched together and a far cry from the grounded hook it started with. The ending in particular feels more problematic than triumphant, undercutting any emotional payoff that the film was undoubtedly reaching for. Performance and characters. I've always liked Kevin James. Ever since The King of Queens, he's embodied a homey, comforting, everyman dad energy that feels natural and familiar. Alan Richardson, on the other hand, is someone I've grown to appreciate more recently, especially through his work on Amazon's Reacher, where his physicality and screen presence are central to his appeal. Kevin plays Brian, a stepfather trying to connect with his stepson while grappling with his own insecurities. His exaggerated attempts to perform masculinity are often absurd, but they do reflect something real about modern fatherhood. Brian is clearly trying to live up to the idea of being the best stepfather, and in doing so, repeatedly confronts his own shortcomings. Alan, on the other hand, who plays Jeff, is essentially the stereotypical meathead. He's physically intimidating, well-meaning, but not particularly self-aware. He often finds himself in unfortunate situations, many of which are caused by his own impulsiveness. While the character does have some potential, he rarely evolves beyond this surface-level portrayal. While that may be intentional, it significantly limits how invested you can become. Direction and cinematography. The best way I can describe the direction, storytelling, and overall cinematography is, well, clumsy. When the film works, those moments are short-lived and often followed by scenes that feel awkward or outright cringeworthy. The visual storytelling lacks confidence, consistency, making it difficult for scenes to land with any real weight. While the movie clearly wants to explore familiar themes of fatherhood and identity, it does so in a half-baked way. There's little visual or tonal restraint, and the lack of cohesion ultimately robs the film of any substance, especially by the time it reaches its conclusion. Themes. The film gestures toward themes of masculinity, empathy, and what it means to be a good father, but it rarely explores them with any real depth. Instead of allowing these ideas to emerge organically through character choices and consequences, the film often rushes past them in favor of spectacle and escalation, and as a result, the themes feel present but woefully underdeveloped. Final thoughts. I genuinely believe that this movie would have been better served as a comedy skit rather than a full-length feature. That may sound harsh, especially since I like seeing both Kevin and Alan on the big screen, but this film simply doesn't give the material that plays to their strengths. At a tight 10 to 15 minutes, this premise could have been sharp, funny, and, well, memorable. Instead, it's stretched to a feature-length film. It feels like a joke that's repeated rather than developed. The characters operate almost entirely as exaggerated types. You have the insecure dad, the unhinged alpha dad, the eerie kid, and the faceless pursuers. Now, exaggerated archetypes can absolutely work in comedy, especially sketch comedy. If you've seen Key and Peele and you know how effective heightened character types can be when that's the point, but feature films need those archetypes to evolve into fully dimensional characters, and that never really happens here. So yeah, I didn't particularly enjoy this film, and if given the chance to watch it again, I'd happily decline. But if you've seen it, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Did it work for you, or did it also lose you along the way?